Did the red heifer sacrifice happen? Yes, we believe so. Okay, guys, so this week, some interesting, strange things, we must say. Strange things have come up, and basically what happened is there was a sacrifice of one of the red heifers that came from Texas. We saw a short clip of it. We didn't have much information and very little go on. Then what happened is, through the course of this week, the Temple Institute came out and said, okay, none of the red heifers qualify. Meaning that the 5 red heifers that came over from Texas, all right, they don't qualify. And that means that the sacrifice that took place on July 1st this year, there was a sacrifice, that it didn't qualify for the criteria of a red heifer sacrifice. And we also had a post by Byron Stinton. And in his post, he basically said it was a sacrifice. We're going to look at his post. We're going to look at the photos. And so it was, you know, okay, this person says that. The other person says that. And so I said, okay, well, the Temple Institute says that it wasn't a sacrifice, so it wasn't a sacrifice. But I decided to look into it a little bit more and look into Byron Stinton's post and his photographs, and that's what I'm going to share with you in this video. Now, many people will say things that this is prophetic, it's biblical, but what scriptures talk about it? Okay, Numbers 19. Yes, you can see there's a sacrifice there. But there is prophecy about this. They're in the minor prophets. We're mostly going to focus on the prophet Hosea in chapters 4 and 10. Now, for some of you, if you don't know, I'm going to go real quick. The views that a red heifer would have to take place as a sacrifice as to allow ashes to purify the priests, and then thus the building of the third temple could take place, but the building of the third temple can't take place until you have the ashes of red heifer. Okay, this is the kind of long-standing kind of tradition and view. It's even in the Quran. And so when Hamas launched their attack on October 7th, they even said that, okay, there were red heifers that came from Texas and they're stopping. Doing what they can. Al-Aqsa flood means that they're coming against Jerusalem to stop the sacrifice of the red heifers. That's what they said, guys. So anyway, so red heifers came into Tel Aviv by flight coming from Texas. There's 5 of them. And Byron Stinton, you can look him up. He coordinated this and brought these 5 red cows. They have basically been born in the springtime of, of 2021. And it took some time, and by the time they came to the flight and they came to Israel, they come in 2022. All this is very important for you to understand, guys, as we go through this video, the timing. All right. 2022, in the fall, we believe was the Shemitah. And so they're blowing a trumpet of a Shemitah year. This is significant for us. And so keep that in mind. 2022, they come. A year later, Hamas launches their attack in October 2023, also in the time of the fall feast, to stop the sacrifices in their temple sacrifice. Okay. So when I went and looked at the photographs that Byron Stinton witnessed this sacrificing of one of those 5 red heifers that he had brought over, I just wanted to look and see what was the information. And basically what he did is, I don't have Facebook. You have Facebook, you can go to his Facebook page. But he did a slideshow. And what I did is I slowly went into the photographs of that slideshow because some of them flashed for less than a second. And I screen captured all of those, and that's what I want to go over and show you. All right, guys, here's some of the photos from the presentation on Facebook. And what you're looking at here is a drone and a picture of a fox. Okay, very interesting. And now what we have is the construction is taking place. We can see in the hills, and this is very similar to what Shiloh looks like. And essentially what's happening is there's a crane coming in, and it's bringing this pre-built platform of wood that the heifer is coming in on. Okay, the sun is going down. It's a little bit later in the day, and still the crane has dropped, and so this is one of the days. And in this photo, sorry for the poor quality, but this is the back of the truck, the crane, and the lowering of that wood platform that the sacrifice would take place. Okay, this is the red heifer in its pen in Shiloh. A photograph of that. Okay, here we can see the next day most likely. Either the sacrifice has taken place on site or somewhere else, and that the cow was brought in on this truck. And here you can see the animal is deceased. He is on the platform. But what I want you to notice is that these are Jews. These are all Jews. They have the kippah, which is on the head. That's what all these little caps. Those are Jews. Okay, many of them with the white shirt and black pants. These are Jews. Okay, and so they're present. Are these priests? Most likely. Most likely. We don't know for sure. Nobody's saying anything. We don't see any identities or anything, but this is a photograph, okay, which clearly shows them there. Again, the animal is on the platform. Okay, he's been sacrificed, and again, we look over here, and you can see these are Jews. These are Jews. They're most likely those saying that they are of the tribe of Levi, and there are many of them. So they're overseeing the sacrifice. So there are Jews there. Are they Levites? You know, well, we're just saying, guys, this was not solely a Gentile sacrifice, is what we're saying. Okay, now the sacrifice has taken place, the burning of that wood platform. And here you can see it going. And here is that drone. So now we have the drone, which is above the wood platform, and there you can see the red heifer. Okay. I believe this is Byron Stenson standing here. And then in this portion, we appear to be looking at the ashes. Okay. I'm not totally certain what this person is doing. Okay, they're holding a hand up and holding something. And here, okay, we see them with a bucket and a shovel, and they are getting the ashes. Okay, so again, the ashes is the whole point of this sacrifice, is to get the ashes. And so here we see them with shovels and a pail, and they're taking the ashes and putting them into a bucket. Okay, here we see a staff, a reed. Okay, I don't know if we can get that clear on the screen, but as you look here, you can see this is a staff, this is a walking stick, and you can see that what they've done is they have one stick, walking stick, and then they have a second one. And what I believe what they're doing here is they are showing the two staffs of Ezekiel 37, the staff of Judah and the staff of Joseph or Ephraim coming together. Okay, here's the ashes.
Okay, so at this point, it's probably the third day, and then the ashes are left behind, and we could see them at the pail of the bucket. Okay, now, the other thing we want to do is we want to take a look at Byron Stinton's post on Facebook and read that. Okay, here we go. All right, so Byron Stinton, this is his post that he posted on Facebook. I apologize. This is all screenshots. I don't have Facebook, so this is the burning of the July from July 1. This is not on the Mount of Olives, and some Jewish leaders feel it does not pass all the requirements they support. But it was real in the first and 2,000 years. Some will say you need to follow the Torah. We did that. Okay, he's saying we did follow the Torah. So he's saying he did follow Numbers 19. We did that. Others have a higher standard with the oral Torah or the Talmud. Many will never agree, but what does that say? I can't see. The words got messed up there in the screenshot. But the word, we should have recognized it the first in over 2,000 years. Will there be more? Yes. Will everyone agree that this will be the right one? No. Many will continue to question and fight against the ceremony. Just think the world needs to know the ceremony went perfect. Okay? The ceremony went perfect with a perfect priest. Okay, so he is saying there's a perfect priest. And we could see priest was there in a place outside the camp. And in the opinion of those I respect, we used a perfect red heifer. Okay, this ceremony was done before Hashem. He is merciful and faithful. Okay, and he knows we are not perfect. Okay, so there you can see his post. You can go to Facebook, you can read all this if it's still there. And with those photos that we showed you, there was a slide presentation. I just took screenshots of that and sharing it with you.
Okay, there as we look at the photos, now we want to talk about the elements of what it is that we looked at and why is it that we can actually see those things in prophecy. And before we do that, I just want to explain one other thing, and that is that there's a lot of complexities around doing sacrifices in the modern state of Israel. You guys know I was in Jerusalem and was witness to many of them. And from what I understand, you have to get approval from the government to do a sacrifice, okay? You can't just, you can't go online and tell people, okay, this is what we're doing. We're sacrificing animals and not get approval from the government. So what I believe has happened is that this is the sacrifice of the red heifer, and it did not get official government approval by the organizations like the Temple Institute. So they cannot come out in public and say, okay, this is the sacrifice of the red heifer. We have the ashes. They can't do that unless they get government approval. So if the sacrifice took place, it didn't get government approval, they're not going to say this is the official sacrifice. You see, so because this has so much attention, the red heifer's got so much attention, it's in mainstream media. Hamas said they did October 7th as a result of red heifers coming from Texas. Because of this, what I believe has happened is that there's no official government approval of the sacrifice, so Temple Institute and them, they can't say this is the red heifer, but they have the ashes. Now, for those of you that understand the whole backdrop of all this, well, basically, there's a guy from the United States, Byron Stinton, who we looked at the photographs. He went throughout Texas, went through cattle ranchers to find red heifers to send to Israel. He did so. He was even there when they were being born. And so that was in 2021. In 2021, in the springtime 2021, these heifers were born. And then basically, to summarize, it took them a year and a half to get them on a flight from New York to Tel Aviv. And they show up in Tel Aviv in September of 2022. Okay? Real important. Now, in our view, we're not saying 100%, but in our calculation of the Shemitah year, 2022 was the 7-year Shemitah year. Okay, so they're arriving there at that time, and that's significant. And so what happens is the heifer would have to be sacrificed within a certain period of time. It can't go beyond 4 years, essentially. And so that's kind of where we are. If the heifer goes beyond 4 years, it's not qualified. So they did this sacrifice. It meets some of the criteria, but not all. Okay, the sacrifice is supposed to be done on the Mount of Olives, according to Jewish tradition. It wasn't done on the Mount of Olives. It was probably done somewhere around Shiloh in Samaria. So it doesn't meet all of those qualifications, okay, but it was coming to an expiration. My understanding is it costs almost $2 million to send those 5 cattle to Jerusalem. So with all that expense and all this energy going into this and all the international recognition of what's going on, including what happened with Hamas, when they said, okay, we launched Alaska Flood, their attack on October 7th. We launched this attack because of the red heifers that showed up from Texas. And they're doing this to stop that. That's what they said. And guys, we found out it's in the Quran. In the Quran, it does say that the Jews would sacrifice a red heifer and build the temple. So that's Armageddon right there for you, okay? So that's why they can't say that this happened and, create the chaos around this sacrifice that's taking place. So now the importance, we also believe there's huge importance to that, where we're in Armageddon, we're in the end days, and we know from the king's timeline, okay, that we get the 14 years, and after the 14 years, we see the 14 years in Genesis 14, where Armageddon takes place, 4 kings against 5 kings. It's Armageddon, it's the war, and that's in Genesis 14. Okay, so it's talking about year 14. Then in Genesis chapter 15, what we have is we actually have Abram sacrificing a 3-year-old heifer. Okay, so let's think about this. We get year 14, Armageddon, Genesis 14. The next chapter, Yahweh confirms his covenant with Abram, and he sacrifices a heifer, 3 years old. That's reason number 1, we believe that this is the sacrifice, because it's following that pattern in Genesis 14 and 15. The second reason is in the book of Isaiah. In fact, look, let's read it. It's Isaiah 15. It talks about the 3-year-old heifer. All right. My heart shall cry out for Moab, his fugitives shall flee as Zor, as a heifer, okay, of 3 years old. Okay. So here in Isaiah 15, it's once again a passage dealing with Armageddon. Okay. And 3 years from when? Well, it's 3 years since the heifers arrived in Israel, right? 2022. And it's coming close to that. It's coming close to when they're going to expire. And so that's what we believe this is, the 3 years. It's also in Jeremiah 48. From Zor, okay, a heifer of 3 years old. All right. So there also is a place here, Karhoranamim. And that place means 2 calves. 2 calves. And what we believe is that the 2 calves is related to the two sacrifices, one in 2019 and this one 3 years after the Shemitah year, taking place in 2015. So these correspond to the Shemitah year when you blow the trumpet in the fall of 2022. Okay? Now, what we're going to look at is that Hosea chapter 4 and chapter 10 is dealing with this heifer, this sacrifice. It's in Scripture, okay? And then in Hosea 5:8, it says, blow the shofar in Gibeah and the trumpet in Ramah and cry aloud in Beth Haven. Okay? So what do we have? We have a trumpet. And the trumpet, that's the time that the heifers arrived in Israel. And we believe that Beth Haven is Texas in the United States, because the red heifers came as a gift, okay, a gift from the king. Let's see, where do we have that passage? Okay, we'll pull it up. We'll pull it up. Okay, now let's go and let's look at the prophecy related to this. We're in Hosea chapter 10, verse 5. The inhabitants of Samaria tremble for the calf of Beth Haven. Calf here is heifer. Okay, so the inhabitants of Samaria tremble for the heifer of Beth Haven from Texas. The people mourn for it, as do its idolatrous priests. Okay, so this is talking about this sacrifice. Okay, in here it continues. Okay, the thing shall be carried to Assyria as a tribute, okay, from the great king. Now, what we believe this means, his name is Yered, okay. I apologize, my Bible I'm using is not King James, and it's ESV. But in the King James, what it says is this great king, or this king Yered. So what's happening is this calf is coming from Beth Haven as a gift. And that's what happened from Assyria. And so United States is Assyria. And they gave this gift of heifers, all right, into Samaria, the heifer of Beth Haven. You see? Okay. So the high places of Haven, the sin of Israel, shall be destroyed. Okay. So that's one of the passages here that is dealing with the heifers coming from Beth Haven, from Texas, as a gift to Israel. Now, let's also go to Hosea chapter 4. And Hosea chapter 4, some of these are famous passages, but we're going to look at this in light of the heifer. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. You guys been to church, you've heard this many times. Because you have rejected knowledge, I have rejected you from being a priest. Okay, so here we can see that it's speaking of the priests, and we can see in the photos there were priests there, guys, doing this sacrifice. Like, they shall be like people and like priests. So in this sacrifice, it is done with not just Gentiles, but there are Jews there as well. There are priests there. And let's see. Okay. The other thing is, you could see that they showed a picture of a staff, right? They showed a picture of a staff. And they sacrifice, verse 13. So they sacrifice on the tops of mountains, and we can see them sacrifice on the tops of mountains, nor go to Beth Haven. So again, right here, we see Beth Haven in verse 16. All right. And the staff, here's the staff. In my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because they have rejected knowledge. I will also reject you, that you shall not be my priest. Verse 12, their staff declareth unto them. Okay, So some of the things that we're looking in those photos, guys, we're seeing priests. We could see that they put this staff there. Now, why did they put this staff there? Okay, so I'm looking at all these things that they're doing, and I'm seeing them in these scriptures, okay? I'm not judging. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying this is prophecy being fulfilled. Now, why did they put the staff there? Basically, the staff that they put there is put to bring together the two staffs in Ezekiel chapter 37, the staff of Judah and the staff of Joseph, of Ephraim. The two staffs will come together and they will be as one. So that's why they laid that staff there on the ground, showing that the staff of Joseph is there doing the sacrifice. Okay, so that was their intention, but the staff is also appearing in the prophecy. My people take counsel of their stocks, and their staff declares unto them. Okay, here in chapter 4, Israel slides back as a backsliding heifer. Let me say it again. Israel slides back as a backsliding heifer. Now the Lord will feed them as a lamb in a large place. Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone, their drink is sour. Okay, so even, when these heifers came, there is a place in Texas called Aven, A-V-E-N, Ridge. And it may have been in a close proximity to where these heifers came. So that's part of the reason we also believe that these prophecies of Avan is talking about Texas. Okay, so basically, what do we gain understanding here? Is that the timing of when this is happening, we didn't know this in advance, but once we can see these things happening, this sacrifice happen, even though there's conflicting reports, we do believe that this sacrifice is taking place. They have ashes. You could see they have ashes. They're putting ashes in the bucket. That's the point of this. The point is not to have interviews in international media. That's what they need to do. Now, what does this mean? Is the third temple going to be built? We believe the third temple is built. It's the synagogue of Satan Christ talked about. It is the synagogue of Ezekiel chapter 8. Is there a big white building coming on the Temple Mount? We'll see. We'll see. But we believe the daily sacrifice already been taken away. All this is, it has happened, okay? It is a sacrifice. It did take place in the mountains. And what does it mean from here? We'll watch. We'll watch and see. So guys, thanks for watching, and God bless you.